You are watching SA Trending Updates. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification.
15. Chair, on the 30th April, which is last year in 2022, we received an application from inmate Bester where he was requesting to be transferred to a single cell in single cells, which we normally call Broadway, in one of the units at MCC. And this request, it was an own request. He was not sent there either for disciplinary hearing or whatever. And procedurally, such applications, we forward them to the Office of the Controller, who is the representative of DCS, and it was indeed approved accordingly.
Sorry, sir. There is noise up there, and it's affecting us down here. Please proceed.
Okay, on the 30th April 2022, we received an application from inmate Bester where he was applying to be kept in a single cell for his own safety, of which we handled accordingly, and it was approved by the DCS controller on site, and inmate Bester was placed in cell 35. And then on the 2nd May 2022, at 7:30 in the evening, after we have done the roll count, because we are doing four roll counts per day, the last one, which is 7:30 in the evening, we can confirm that all the cells were locked for the night, as well as the cell of inmate Bester. Because the locking and the checking of the locking system, it is a standard operating procedure at MCC. At the same time, the security system technician, he went to the central control and then to check whether it's all electronic system operational, which he confirmed to be operational and functioning. In the central control room, we do have two control officers or central control officers, which were on duty, and their function or their main function is to monitor camera footages, to open doors, and to manage the system. The next day, which was the 3rd May 2022, at 4 o'clock, early hours of the morning, fire was discovered from cell 35, and it was extinguished by the MCC trained personnel. After they have distinguished this fire, that cell was cordoned off. And then from there, what we have picked up is that MCC as well as DCS managed the management. They were called because procedurally, we need to report these things, or whoever that is on duty during the night needs to report to the senior management of MCC as well as to the controller that is on site. 26 minutes after 4 o'clock, the nurse arrived, and this nurse is working for an independent contractor on site, which is called Lai Faranani, to come and see what best can they do there. And then 3 minutes before 5 o'clock, as we could pick up from the recordings, the DCS controller arrives. 1 minute past 5, the MCC operations director arrived. 10 minutes later, doctor, who's also serving for Lai Faranani, also arrived, and he examined the body, and then he certified inmate Bester to be dead. The next slide. On the 3rd May, 6 o'clock, early hours of the morning, we also picked up the arrival of the area commissioner, as well as the duty director. 5 minutes before 7 o'clock, the SAPS arrived, and then 10:30 during the day, the SAPS forensic team arrives. The SAPS completed its examination, and they took photos of the incident. The SAPS forensic team removes the body to the state mortuary for a post-mortem. Once the SAPS has completed its examination, they gave us a go-ahead that we can either clean the cell or get the cell to be used again. And then after the body was removed, the MCC retrieved the deceased position for safekeeping in the administration building stores. Amongst the items that were found, it was a laptop which was authorized, as well as the cell phone, which was not authorized to be in the possession of the inmate. That morning, that evening, 7:30, a final road check, when the final road check was done, we can confirm that all the 2,928 inmates, they were accounted for. The next day, which was the 4th May 2022, we received a notice of death for inmate Bester, where the pathologist has certified the inmate, which we received from the Department of Health. On the same date, Chairperson, MCC administration staff raises concerns for a smell that they picked up from the deceased possession that was removed from the cell. And then the MCC operations director then informed the SAPS about this unusual smell that we picked up of a petrol from inmate Bester's possession belongings. On the 5th May 2022, based on MCC concerns, SAPS returns to MCC to inspect the deceased possession, as we have reported that we picked up a smell of an unusual smell. On the 6th May, the Department of Home Affairs then issued a death certificate for inmate Bester. 2 days later, which was the 8th May, the SAPS Forensics returns to MCC to collect the belongings recovered from cell 35, including the laptop as well as the cell phone. And Chair, I will then hand over to Mr. Groenewald to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Mr. Manyanti has taken the committee through some background regarding Mangaung Correctional Centre, which has been in operation now for almost 22 years, and has also taken you through the events of the 3rd of May 2022 and the days immediately thereafter. I'd now like to turn to the 3 very separate investigations that followed the incident of the 3rd of May. There was a criminal investigation launched by the South African Police Services. I think it's important to point out that in the early days, this investigation took the form of a suicide. And then from the 25th of May last year, the police changed this into a murder investigation. There was also an independent investigation into the unnatural cause. This is a standard procedure conducted by JICS. And then we as MCC conducted the 3rd and very independent investigation, which is a compliance investigation. And our compliance investigation commenced on that morning of the 3rd of May last year. Turning to the first investigation, the SAPS criminal investigation, Honourable Chair, I'd like to say from the outset that MCC cooperated fully with the SAPS from the word go. On the 3rd of May, as you heard, SAPS attended the scene to investigate what was then assumed to be a suicide. It was MCC who called the SAPS and made them aware of a chemical smell, a petrol smell, coming from the personal belongings of inmate Bester that had been moved, as you heard, for safekeeping to the administrative block. This was done on the 4th of May. We also assisted SAPS on the 17th of May. What we requested, rather, on the 17th of May from SAPS in writing a copy of the post-mortem report. This was never provided to us, and that request was declined. On the 25th of May, SAPS informed us that they have now officially converted the investigation from a suicide into a homicide, or rather into a murder, following the state autopsy report. On the 2nd of June 2022, we provided SAPS with additional information that they had created. And on the 14th of January 2023, this year, Honourable Chair, we understand that SAPS opened an investigation into an escape. It's important to note that prior to this date, we received no formal communication from SAPS that they had now moved to an investigation into escape. This formed part of the SAPS documents that were produced for purposes of this committee on the 4th of April 2023.
You are watching SA Trending Updates. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification.